Coffee Conversations about Influencer Marketing is brought to you by Influential, a strategic consultancy that takes the guesswork out of influencer marketing for your brand. We provide much needed strategically crafted frameworks on how to implement influencer campaigns specific to your brand needs.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fabulous edition of Coffee Conversations about influencer marketing. And as usual, we are coming at you from our beautiful studios in Sandton, and we have a special guest, IKA VAN WYK, Head of Marketing, Granadilla, a very different insurance company. Welcome to it.
Welcome to the podcast, IKA.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you so much. And before we carry on, obviously not flying solo, my partner in influence, founder of Influential, the biggest, the best influencer marketing strategy company in South Africa, and Dolly Sheikh. Welcome to it, my friend.
Yay! You know, I always love these recordings. But today we've got a very special person here.
Exactly.
IKA is very interesting, and she's going to talk to us all about startups and influencer marketing.
Yeah, so please keep your ears peeled and let's get right into it. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, that's a surprise.
I know.
As you said, my name is IKA. I'm Head of Marketing and Customer Experience Management for Granadilla. I've been with Granadilla for the last 6 months, 5.5, 6 months.
All right.
And really before that, I had a combination of corporate and non-corporate and consulting jobs in banking, telcos, consulting, medical aids. But I've really found my niche in digital. Okay. And the industry that I love applying it to is insurance. Okay. So for the last couple of years, my focus really has been applying my digital passion skills in insurance, and being very entrepreneurial in nature. I've been looking for quite a long time for something quite like Granadilla, where I could live out my passion and really play to my strengths. Yeah. So this startup, fast-paced, always changing kind of environment that I found in Granadilla suits me perfectly well. Yeah. And it's a great challenge and a lot of fun to be in that environment.
Yo, IKA, I don't think we often hear anyone say that insurance is their passion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why insurance?
I think growing up, I've always had a fascination with money. How do banks work? Where does the money come from? Like, if I put my money in the bank,
what
does it work?
Yeah.
I remember as a kid being, 6 years old and getting my first, it was a Standard Bank account. And every month I would get this little magazine in the mail from Standard Bank. That
I remember those.
And I was just always fascinated. Like, I would read it like front to back and like save all of the magazines and read them again and again and again. And that's why banking was kind of a natural choice for me at some stage. Yeah. But I really found that insurance is underrepresented and really lacking far behind when it comes to digital and innovation.
100%.
And I think as important as banking is, there are a lot of good people doing a lot of great things in banking, making it more accessible for people. But I found that, in South Africa, in the context of South Africa, those who are most at risk and in need of protection products generally tend to be left behind, either because it's not inclusive or it's so difficult to understand, or the means to have access to those are either through, networks and brokers and
that's
things that are just usually the realm of those who are already networked and connected, or have some kind of financial literacy to fall back on and to understand it. So I think there's a big job that we should be doing in South Africa to make sure that the people who are the most exposed to risk have fair and equal and easy access to the products that can protect them from that.
Vote for IKA, guys. Yeah. That's fantastic. So on that, I think insurance is a very saturated market in South Africa. I think we all know it. Every day you get bombarded by SMSs and emails and please sign up, please click here. How does Granadilla set itself apart? Like, what makes you unique in the insurance space?
In terms of what we offer and how we offer it, so I'm not going to answer the question from the perspective of how we advertise, because I think that's going to come out a little bit later in the podcast. But just in terms of who we are as a brand and as a company, what sets us apart is we recognize that having access to insurance is really like a pretty shitty experience, if you don't mind me
Yes.
saying. It's
No,
lots of
no.
hoops, and Monday to Friday office hours. You must have access to a computer where you can receive an email with a 5-page long form, and you must print it out and fill it in and scan it and
And
fax
it takes
back.
forever
It takes
to get feedback.
or
and,
being able to afford or having the time to get onto a call center call for 40 minutes, or that kind of like effort. And what makes us different is that we looked at when do you really need insurance, when does it matter most, and it's really at the point of when you have to submit a claim, and hopefully that claim will be handled as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Yes, and there's no like small print that says, "Oh, sorry, you're not covered for this."
But I think inevitably there will always be small print, and I'm using my fingers to kind of show the because insurance is it's sophisticated, and it has to like the products have to work. So what people think is small print is actually just underwriting rules that are there for a very specific reason, so that it doesn't get abused by people who
look. Fair enough, there is a lot of people that would abuse it, and then the small percentage of people who don't generally get the wrong end of the stick.
Well, I can't comment on that, because I mean it's I think that's a perception. Whether or not that's the truth, I don't know, and I'm not willing to have an opinion on that on air.
No, that's perfect.
But going back to what makes Granadilla different is we looked at how we could use digital technologies, platforms and systems to re-engineer the claims process, and then we worked it kind of backwards all the way back to the front of the experience chain. Where at the point of you coming on board with Granadilla for the first time, what kind of information do we need from you? How do we want to get that information from you in a way that is slick, easy, without friction, so that by the time you have a claim and you really need us, we don't have to ask you for all of that stuff over again, and you don't have to fill out forms, and so we recognize that you've got your phone on you all the time, and that's the most personal device that you have. So we asked ourselves, how can we empower you with what you already have, which is your phone. So our processes have really been designed to circumvent a lot of the manual, labor-intensive, like human-driven processes that you would encounter with a traditional insurance company. So we don't have a call center, we don't have paperwork, we don't have office hours. You use your app to do a lot of the stuff yourself. And if you hit a snag, if you get stuck somewhere, then we do have a team that's available during office hours to help you, just explain to you, or manually intervene. But other than that, it's completely...
That's wonderful.
And that just means that, for those of us who aren't necessarily able or allowed to step out during office hours to go and stand in a queue at a branch, or to use your company phone to make a 40-minute call to your insurance provider,
100%.
that if you've got a phone and you've got access to the internet, in a couple of seconds or minutes you can take out insurance or submit a claim.
Oh, that's great.
You are obviously a startup, being in the market for slightly over a year. How were you introduced to influencer marketing? I'll tell you why I asked that question, is because the perception in the market is that you can only use influencer marketing post the growth curve. How are you using it as a startup?
Well, firstly, as a startup, I think if we had to wait for, post the growth curve before we started engaging with agencies, it would be a long time, because as a startup, we're only at the beginning of our growth curve, which is very exciting. So in my days of being in big corporate environments, I wasn't a big supporter of influencer marketing, just because I thought it was quite arrogant of brands to think that they could be so imposing, and a lot of the big brands did it in a way that I felt was
we see a lot
kind
of
of undermining the audience, that they think would just fall for it, because
quite condescendingly as well at times. We see a lot of bad
top-down approach never does work. So
to be honest, that was my impression, and it was actually after one of the account managers at the Salt approached me and said, look, I don't know if you're considering influencer marketing, but I'd love to explain to you what we do. And I was like, cool, fair enough, like,
let's give it a go.
Convince me, let's see where this goes. And I think the thing that changed my mind was the fact that all of a sudden in the startup environment, we have a try everything mindset. We have to, and the micro influencer strategy that that was pitched to me just made a lot of sense for us, for where we were at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got a couple of more
Yeah.
leading questions on that topic.
I think onto that, obviously startups don't have a lot of marketing budgets. Did that kind of also play into why you also would consider doing more of the micro or nano influence strategy?
Absolutely. I think, having limited resources, and not just, marketing budget, but also the amount of people that I have in the team,
Yeah.
the amount of time that I have to launch a brand successfully. I very strictly look at everything as an opportunity cost. So if I'm spending £5 with you today, where else could I have spent that £5 somewhere else?
Sure.
And what do I think the results would have been? So it's not always for us about, where do we get the most return on investment immediately. It's also to kind of understand where would I learn the most, the fastest,
I like that approach. Actually, I think all marketers should look at things like that.
Yeah. So for us, with limited budget, there was for me that the trade-off was if I spend this money on a influencer or micro influencer campaign, where else could I and would I have spent that money, and what would I have learned from that, and what do I think I would have achieved from that, from an awareness and conversion perspective?
Yeah.
So it is early days for us, and I'm enjoying the process of failing fast and learning as much as I can.
Yes.
But I think it's a failure if you don't set out to learn something in the process, and that's why I've partnered with the SALT, because there's a mutual understanding and appreciation for insights, and not just launching
Correct.
a campaign on day one and stepping back and
And see what happens.
happens, and on day 100 then you kind of
Get a report going like, ooh,
this
something didn't go really
this
well.
wasn't
Let's
great.
look, yeah.
So for us, I would honestly say it's a bit too soon to know whether or not it really works in terms of
course.
ROI, because
Yeah.
we've only been in the market for a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
But I am learning a hell of a lot, because what this micro influencer campaign allows me to do is to, sit in and observe what our micro influencers are doing, and the conversation that they're having with their networks and social
Yeah.
media.
Yes.
I'm not butting in. I'm looking at it and learning and seeing the perspectives that people have.
No,
out
exactly. And I think that is so valuable for clients or for brands to actually see what people are saying about them once people or influencers actively engage on a topic with them.
And the beauty of being a startup is, 100 customers for me is really valuable to hear their opinion of. Whereas when you a mega company, 100 customers, their voice gets lost somewhere.
Yeah.
So, it's still very manageable for me to really get first-hand direct feedback from real humans whose names I know, and I understand exactly how they're socially connected to the influencers,
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
as opposed to it being aggregated into some kind of, anonymous report where it just
Yes.
says, 100 people on Facebook said X, Y, and Z. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, there's nuances there. Like, who said that? Oh, it was that lady. Okay, but the context is that she's got a kid, and she's a
Yeah.
single mom, and she's strapped for time, and it becomes a really important, I think, thing to get direct customer feedback, from real people, individuals.
No, exactly. And I think with nano influencers, they give you that feedback, and in a startup environment, like you were saying, you can look at the nuances, you can see what the context is, and then also tweak your product
Absolutely.
so that it works better for your end user.
Absolutely. And we have, we on a couple of occasions, I think, every now and again, based on what I see gets said in the conversations of our nano influencers,
Yeah.
we do go back to the drawing board and say, crap, there's obviously a misunderstanding of how, excess works, for example.
Yeah.
We need to chat to our influencers so that they don't, miss the opportunity to potentially help explain this to people if they don't understand how it works or why it's a thing.
Yeah.
So, having that backwards and forwards conversation between you and your influencers, it's not just about empowering them with marketing material to go and,
Correct.
talk up your good game on your behalf. It's also to understand where the misunderstandings or the, the ill-informed perceptions lie.
Yeah.
And then asking them to please help correct people who don't maybe understand how product works.
No, it's huge opportunities,
Yeah.
definitely.
What are some of the additional reasons why you are heavily invested in nano influencers?
Additional reasons why. I think for us, if you think about awareness, it's not a one one size fits all.
Yeah.
Imagine if you are a mega corporate, awareness might mean reaching the mass market, by the millions.
Yeah.
So your target kind of looks very different from my target. As a startup and as someone who's playing in what is effectively not meant to be a niche industry forever, but still niche because it's starting out. Like in South Africa, InsureTech is not an established, subsector of insurance.
Yeah.
What is InsureTech? Sorry, let's just explain that.
It's using technology in the process of getting and maintaining your insurance from your insurance provider.
Got it.
In a way that, I guess, for all the reasons I explained earlier,
Yes.
Makes it just more efficient,
Convenient.
more accessible, and also potentially and hopefully has an impact on the cost of the product.
Okay, thank you. Now we all know what that means. Sorry, carry on.
So for me, we all know that it's ridiculously expensive to launch a new brand in any market. And launching a insurance brand in a market like South Africa, where we've got a lot of big and established insurance companies already, this kind of compounds that challenge. It's really an expensive exercise. So, I'm happy if I have the opportunity to tell 10 people about Granadilla who didn't know about Granadilla, yesterday. That for me is like great. That's awareness. Little by little, we're eating this elephant.
Departure from zero.
Correct, because I don't have the budget to do 6 months of TV, radio, print advertising campaigns that are racking up, bills in the millions.
No, exactly.
So for me, it's that network effect of building a good relationship with our micro-influencers, and also treating them like our own customers. So our mindset has really been to, invest time in them as an individual, not just as a marketing tool or a mouthpiece.
I think that's
for
very
us.
important. We hardly ever see that coming through.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is very important because those nano guys are your true, authentic guys on the ground.
Yeah.
They aren't the big guys with millions of followers, which means they're so authentic when they talk to their networks, like you're saying. And from them, that 10 in their network will go, hopefully, if they have a positive experience, will tell 10 of their friends. And so it builds.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not just about the opportunity to, tell people about the product, hoping that they will convert them into sales at the end of the day. It really is a awareness job as well in an environment where I don't have deep pockets to run expensive
100%.
awareness campaigns that outcompete the bigger guys in the market.
Yes. And I think that is smart as startups. You have to kind of look at the alternative ways, because we can't compete with the big guys. We have to find different ways of
we can't compete with ad spend.
No,
but we can certainly compete with other,
in terms of the offering.
100%.
Yes.
Especially your offering, and if it is more tailored and things, people do gravitate towards that. They don't want to feel like just another number in a system. And I think you guys are very, very good at that. So obviously, listening to you, I would say nano influence is quite a big part of your marketing strategy at this point. How big a part is it, and what's kind of the other elements of your strategy at this time, if you can discuss that?
That's a difficult one because it's a new subsector of the industry. It is quite competitive. So we don't generally discuss our tactics.
That's fun. I was pushing my luck.
So it's actually one of the benefits of being small and startup is no one's publishing your results, and no one is publishing what your ad spend is, and we don't have to disclose any of that. So we tend to be quite guarded about what we do and how we do it. But yes, I can say that it is a big part of what we're doing at the moment.
Amazing.
And our focus as a digital brand is predominantly to be digital first and foremost.
Of course, it fits with your brand.
Correct. So I can't tell you necessarily what we do, but I can tell you what we don't do and probably won't do anytime soon, and that is to play in the very traditional outdoor radio, TV marketing mix space. Not because it's not effective, just because you're a digital company. We're a digital brand, we're a digital company, and we appeal to people who are already digitally active and proactive. So I don't want to catch you on a TV ad and then you try and call into a call center, hope to speak to a call center agent, if that is your way of dealing with insurance providers.
So I think that also just comes back to aligning your marketing with your own brand and your own values. And we often don't see that, especially the big guys who they just kind of don't really look at the alignment. They just go marketing. Let's do everything and anything and reach everyone. Where I think a tailored approach is much more effective, because you might reach not the masses or the smaller markets, but you're reaching the people that you want to reach. It is your target market that you're speaking to.
That being said, I mean, there's a lot to be said for having a marketing mix that works well. And who knows? I mean, in a year's time from now, I might have a different opinion or answer to that question. And you know, like I said, we are trying a lot of stuff. You know, I am trying a lot of print with our digital to see how they work together, and if they work together. You know, influencer with branding, like those things. You kind of have to have more than just one pencil in your pencil case. So I don't know what the optimal marketing mix is for us just yet.
And I think it is a thing that evolves all the time as well, because especially in digital, things just change all the time. Correct. And you kind of have to be on your game there.
And in your trying out, do you foresee somewhere downstream, do you foresee yourselves incorporating your micro into your macro influencers, into your broader strategy?
Because we are so small, like we don't have a big and a small strategy, you know. So right now they are part of our bigger strategy.
But would you ever kind of enlist the help of like macro influencers, like your celebrities?
That's an interesting question. I think my assessment of influencer marketing hasn't changed that much from before, when I mentioned I was a bit skeptical. And I think it's just because, and maybe it's just the example of brands doing it really badly, is that, you know, too many times I've seen that arrogant kind of, you know, if I slap my product onto a celebrity, then their followers, you know, will and must you know, buy it. And that shines through because that's obviously their intention. So, you know, it often comes through in execution. So I think the answer to your question is, yes, I think if, like I've been convinced with the micro influencer approach, if I can become convinced that there's a better way of doing it that fits our brand better in future, then absolutely.
And also execution wise, I would assume.
Execution.
Yes.
So at a conceptual and strategic level, I'm not anti using macro influencers.
Right.
It's at the execution of that I think it sometimes fails. And at Granadilla, we are extremely passionate and guarded about the experience that we give our customers. And that experience is not just when you take our cover. It's everything from the way that we advertise, the way that we talk to you. So, you know, we're not salesy, pushing things down your throat. We'll never be that. And that doesn't build good relationships.
Yes, it does not.
We're 100% after building good relationships.
And that's a refreshing departure from the norm, because insurance companies are known for being
sales
all over their clientele.
And what is the one thing that you hate about insurance companies?
Exactly that.
That they
can
everywhere.
Get like 100%.
Yeah.
That's quite refreshing.
They're the reason I got Truecaller on my phone. Like, no, 1,000 spam reports. No thanks. So I think to that point, I've gone through, we know that you have obviously social media channels, because part of digital strategy, you have to have social media, because, you know, people go there, look what your brand is about, and then click through and all that jazz, because humans are wonderful. We don't believe things. We want to see things. Do you use user-generated content and maybe use some of your influencers' content down the line as content for your social media strategies?
We've been quite careful to not spoil our influencer campaign execution for now. And that's why we're kind of keeping an eye on, you know, it's only our third month of running the campaign.
Sure.
So we've been really just sitting on the peripherals, just looking in and seeing how they talk and the kind of content that they create. And we've been really impressed with it, but we've been careful not to look like that brand that's now imposing and like, you know,
Yeah.
Sure.
rocking up to the braai uninvited. So I think the answer is yes, we will, as soon as we figure out how to do it in a way that is
Sure.
respectful to the communities where this content gets created organically, you know, where there's interest and context.
I really
Yeah.
want to say I love your approach to marketing. It's all just very respectful to the end user
Exactly.
and
yeah.
to build relationships instead of saying like, I want to get my brand in front of you and I just want you to love it.
Look, we do want that. We absolutely do want that.
But in a respectful
But that's the
way.
thing.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there are shorter ways and shortcuts to achieve that.
Yeah.
But I just don't believe it's at this point worth the potential expense of ruining someone's impression of us. You know, and because we are new and small and growing, like I said, like bad taste in 10 people's mouths becomes, you know,
Yes.
Ugh.
they each tell, you know,
Yeah.
9 or 10 people.
Yeah.
That's 100 plus people that I won't have the opportunity to convert again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm very guarded about the kind of experience that people have with us right now, across the board, because I really want people to, I guess,
Trust you.
like us
Yeah.
for the right reasons.
Definitely.
Because, you know, building trust takes time, and it only takes one campaign executed really badly to change that perception and the
Muddy the
experience.
waters. What is your approach when it comes to paid media on the big platforms like your Facebook, IG, and Twitter? And how do you approach the search
Try
side of the
everything at
business?
least once.
Yeah.
We went from, you know, spending a lot of time and effort into building our technology and our insurance products,
Yeah.
first and foremost, before we switched on marketing, because we wanted to make sure that when we switch on marketing, people are coming into an environment where stuff works.
Sure.
Um,
So important.
yeah, so, you know, we've been trying to be as agile as we possibly can. So in an InsureTech environment where we work very much in the, you know, sprint development type of
Yes.
fashion,
Yeah.
we've applied a lot of those principles to marketing. So I didn't coin the phrase, but, you know, I talk about us doing agile marketing to kind of, you know, make sure that marketing keeps up with the same pace as what's happening elsewhere in the business.
Yeah.
Sure.
So our approach to paid marketing, big or small, doesn't matter if it's on Google or Facebook or little Instagram campaigns here and there,
Yeah.
is to really, you know, break everything into little bite-sized chunks and having no holy cows about chopping, changing, cutting
Yeah.
stuff if it looks like it's not working.
Yeah.
I think that's also the benefit of being in a startup, that you can do that.
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah.
not so much red tape that said, no, for the next 6 months, this is what we're doing. Once you do your A/B testing or things don't work, you can easily just switch it on.
Absolutely. And that actually speaks to that environment that I was talking about earlier, that I was looking for something that would allow me to be, you know, just playing to my strengths.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in a startup, you have to take ownership. Doesn't matter whether you are the most junior person in the company or not. That's what's
Exactly.
required from you. And you need to be able to wear different hats.
Yeah.
And you need to be very decisive, because every single day you could and should be making decisions that either advance or slow down the business.
Sure.
So
No,
that's
100%.
that's kind of what we approach. That's our approach in marketing as well. Is don't be scared to make decisions. Keep an eye on everything every single day. You know, make sure you understand the results, and don't wait too long before you make decisions, because, you know, the strength of a startup in the insurance space is our ability to run fast, and that has to happen across the board.
Yeah.
Yes, and I suppose also before it's out there for like millions of people to see, you want your product to work properly, because otherwise someone else will come and undercut you.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
we do occasionally, you know, we'll pick up some issues either on the like operational processes side, or on a product that, you know, we're getting some feedback from people saying, oh, I wish it could do this, or
And you're
you know,
like,
Yeah.
and we're
wish granted.
Cool, absolutely. You know, just give me a minute so I can pause the advertising on that product line, pull it off for a day or two, you know, make some improvements, put it back up, and then we, you know.
It's so wonderful, actually.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are so scared to go into startups, but when you speak to someone like you, it's actually the benefit of that just comes out. You listen to people, your strategy is literally informed by the data out there that you can see. It's tangible, and you can change it on the fly.
Absolutely. And I think going back to your earlier question about what we love about micro influencers is it's not just de-identified data. You know, it's real people that we have real conversations with, and
Yeah.
I think there's you can love technology as much as we do at Granadilla, but never lose the human aspect of it, because people still like to know that there's a real human who cares,
course.
behind the scenes.
True.
So we still call our customers every day. So like, I noticed you made a change there on your policy, or you've added another product there. I just want to know why. Can you maybe tell me what it is that's working for you, not working for you? And we take this to heart. We document this. This is for us a great way of doing research, because we're not so big that we just don't have the systems and the processes
100%.
to have direct contact with our customers on a daily basis.
Love that. So I want to ask you, for someone who is in your position, or a marketer maybe sitting in a not a startup but maybe anywhere else, what would be your biggest piece of advice to them, especially in startups?
I think my biggest piece of advice is spend a little bit of time to figure out where you need to start, and then go for it. I think there's often a frantic, without questioning, we just have to try, be everywhere, or like apply what I did in my previous life, my previous job, and my previous sector, or whatever, to where I am now. If you're making that transition from a big corporate to a startup, or if you're starting, as a young person and you join a startup, I think afford yourself a little bit of time once you get into your role to assess the situation at a high level. What are the products that we're selling? Who do we want to sell it to? What do I need to do my job, in the right way? And then do a bit of housekeeping. So in our world, as an example, I wasn't willing to spend any money on marketing before I had more visibility of what happens on the bottom line. So we spent a bit of time on analytics even before we did marketing strategy. I was like, the strategy will reveal itself to me over time as I learn more from being in the market and trialing and erroring and talking to our customers. But we work quickly to automate some reports that I get daily, so I can see immediately what I did yesterday had an impact, and I can see tomorrow what that impact is. And setting up measurements to survey and talk to our customers every single day, because at any point in time I want to know what I can improve. And developing this high level strategy and taking 5 months to do it, in this sterile lab environment is completely void of real customer feedback and experience, and you need to build and implement the ways to get that feedback. And that feedback is directly from your consumers, so don't be scared to talk to them, phone them up. And another way is to actually see the data, measure the data that's coming into
and
the
I
business.
think it's a big thing, and also in influencer marketing and strategy that we always instill in clients is, especially if they're like, oh, I don't know about this, or I had bad experience before with influence marketing, and you ask them, what did you measure? What was your objectives? And a lot of the time they don't have measurables. And I think that speaks across the board for marketing. Like you say, you need measurables in place so that you can actually see what's making a difference, what's not, and where you need to tweak and go.
True. And I mean, everyone's got a different product, but for us, it was really important to understand what, how long that tail was from, if you see my advertising today, to the point where you end up buying my product. Does that happen within 7 days, 30 days? How long does that take? And every company is different. It depends on the products and how big the decision-making process is. I always use the example of, if you're thirsty, the moment that thought comes up, you go to the shop, you see a Coca-Cola ad, you buy the Coca-Cola. Like, all of that happens within, minutes. Whereas if you want to buy a new car, the moment that thought comes up that I need a new car, it could be months before you end up buying
lots of research.
Car. So, understand your customers' buying, behavior, decision-making, and that will also give you an idea of the kind of cycles that you need to work in marketing. So do I plan for 7 days ahead, or do I plan for 30 days ahead, or, because that also gives context to how you measure success.
Exactly.
Amazing. Do you have any last words for us before we let you go?
Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Is that how the expression
I think
goes?
that actually sounds right. I was just thinking as well, is that right? But it sounds about right.
I think there's there's this thing in a startup environment where you don't have deep pockets, but that doesn't
Yeah.
mean you shouldn't be, you shouldn't be too scared to spend anything. Like,
Yes.
constantly ask yourself, what do you need to do your business better? And then, justify that,
Find
and
a
motivate
way.
that. But still be frugal. Innovation really comes from, frugal environments where you don't have money to throw at the problem.
Correct.
For me, it's great for the startup environment to put yourself into some boxes where, maybe one day you need to do some copywriting, and if that's not your core skill, then, so be it, but you're not going to hire an agency anytime soon to do
No.
it.
Yeah.
So,
So you'll
best
learn.
you get onto it. So don't be scared to apply your hands to some of the stuff that you are interested in or might have a hidden talent for. But if you need certain tools to do your job, invest in them, get them, because otherwise it holds you back. And time is everything in the startup environment. So the longer
Yes.
you wait to get yourself up and running and in the market, the more you hurt your chance of future success.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
such
you
pearls
so
of
much.
wisdom.
Thank you so much for all those pearls of
Thank
wisdom. I
Thank
wish
you,
we could
guys.
continue this, but obviously we can take this online and interact with our listeners. How do they get hold of you?
So for anyone who wants to see what Granadilla is all about, the best way would be to go onto your app store. So if you've got an Android phone or an iPhone, your respective app store, you just search for Granadilla. You'll see our beautiful little Granadilla fruit logo. Download the app. There's no commitment. You can just play around. It takes you a few minutes to get a quote.
Yeah.
Just try us out. Like, people generally go, it's a great idea, and then you said, but it's really quick, just try it. And they're like, but I
Yeah.
can't comprehend just how easy it is. I'm like, just do it.
Where's the trick, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, we always joke about how the first person you'll ever talk to at Granadilla is Nandi, and she's a bot, an artificial intelligence bot.
Okay.
And we, created it specifically to help new customers who just download the app to navigate their way from, the first point right up until the point where you get
Sure.
a quote for whatever item it is that
Yeah.
you want to get cover for. And Nandi's great. Like, she's helpful, and she never takes sick leave, and she's
We do
available
like that about
24/7.
bots, don't we?
Yeah. Now
So-
it makes
Okay.
sense why you are a very different insurance company. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
And where do our listeners get hold of you?
Please get hold of us at Influential SA without the I. Please, guys, remember, start with the N. We're on Twitter and we're on LinkedIn. So please connect with us. And please send us messages of who you would like to hear on the podcast. If there's any topics you're interested in, please let us know, because we're all about you.
Yeah.
And you, Santi?
Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. And let's keep
Please.
the conversation going. Catch the podcast, Influencer Marketing, on Facebook.
We're everywhere.
Yeah.
Facebook, you can connect with our official page. So just keep up to date. Follow us there. But then when you click on the link to actually listen to us, we're literally on every single platform that you have
we are.
available.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody at home, in your cars, in the gym. Until next time, we love you, but we have to leave you.
Thank you so much, guys. Till next time.